A Song Can Change Your Life is funded in part by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners and presented by Home by Dark Productions, the City of Alpharetta, Fulton County Arts and Culture, and Arts Alpharetta. A Song Can Change Your Life is recorded in the Black Box at the Alpharetta Arts Center, located at 238 Canton Street, Alpharetta. To learn more about our programs and events at the Alpharetta Arts Center, go to alpharetta.ga.us and search Arts Center, or click the link located on our website, asongcanchangeyourlife.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to A Song Can Change Your Life, where we talk with one songwriter, one-on-one, about one of their songs. My name is James, and we're coming to you inside the Black Box, the Alpharetta Arts Center in awesome Alpharetta, Georgia. My guest today is singer-songwriter and good friend, Danny Mitchell. Danny is a keyboard player, orchestrator, very talented guy, and he also serves as the band leader and background vocalist and keyboard player for country superstar Miranda Lambert. On this episode of A Song Can Change Your Life, Danny and I sit down and talk about growing up in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and a really cool story about an accident that took him from a concentration in trumpet to playing more piano. It's a great story. And we're going to zoom in on one of his songs called Some Are Lucky. So the best way to get to know Danny Mitchell is to hear him play and sing. So let's go listen to my very talented friend, Danny Mitchell.
I see the stones in the cemetery, lining up in gray like a dying city. Crawl across the road and bend like trees. I feel the chill of a late October, say your name over and over and over. Am I haunting you? Are you haunting me? This is the last night left on earth, all that it's ever gonna be. If this is the last night left on earth, would you spend it here with me? You drive like you got somewhere to be, so fast that my head is getting dizzy. But I'll go where you wanna go. Your city lights are so much brighter. Hold my hand, squeeze it a little tighter. I want you. Oh, if this is the last night left on earth, all that it's ever gonna be. If this is the last night left on earth, would you spend it here with me? If this is the last night left on earth, all that it's ever gonna be. If this is the last night left on earth, would you spend it here? If this is the last night left on earth, all that it's ever gonna be. If this is the last night left on earth, would you spend it here with me? This is a song I wrote with with my friends Justin and Michaela. It's called Half-Life. Burned out lights on Broadway, muffled sound of music down the road, blues and soul, cowboy boots and makers, 2-for-1 smokes, midnight glow. Not thinking about tomorrow, I've been living this half-life. Wanna see the world with clear eyes. I'm tired of the chase, tired of hearts breaking, sick of these smiles that I keep faking. Only doing one thing instead of a million. I don't wanna spend my whole time just getting by. I don't know how I got here, but I know I've got to find my way back home. I gotta move on. There's so much here for me. Stop looking back behind, start letting go. Think about tomorrow. I don't wanna live a half-life. Wanna see the world with fresh eyes. I'm tired of the chasing, tired of hearts breaking, sick of these smiles that I keep faking. Maybe doing one thing could mean more than a million. I don't wanna spend my whole time just getting by. I don't wanna live a half-life. Wanna see the world with clear eyes. I'm tired of the chase, tired of hearts breaking, sick of these smiles that I keep faking. Maybe doing one thing could mean more than a million. I don't wanna spend my whole time just getting by. Spend my whole time living a half-life. Living a half-life.
Danny Mitchell, welcome to Alpharetta. Welcome to the Arts Center here. How you doing?
I'm great.
Thanks for bringing the wife. And if we have it, we'll snap to a picture of your ferocious watchdog that you brought as well.
We might hear out in the other room barking at somebody.
Your dog is named Fancy.
She sure is, and she is fancy.
And guards you on the road.
Yeah,
protects you.
Right.
So yeah, you can tell from the picture this will be a ferocious dog. Hey, I was thinking back to how we first met, and I believe this, as the story goes, Mike Willis, who is an Atlanta songwriter, now lives in, I think, England.
Yeah.
Said you have to book this guy for our concerts, Home by Dark concerts, and he didn't give me a website, anything. I'm not sure you had a website, but I got a link to a video of you on YouTube, and it was you sitting at a piano. You couldn't barely see your face, but you're staring at the piano, and it's got some Christmas lights. But it was a song called Brooklyn. And if you remember that, and I remember listening to it and going, wow, and sent it to our keyboard player, Jim Hedinger, and our saxophone player, Matt Blanchard. I said, guys, this guy seems really, really good to me. What do you think? And they said the same thing Mike said. They just said, book him. But anyway, I'm glad we did all those years ago. And
I'm glad you did too.
You've been a part of our shows for a long time. And let's walk backwards a little bit. You are from Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Uh-huh.
It sounds like a Norman Rockwell painting, is that what Stevens Point is?
Yeah, that's how I remember it. And it's still like when my wife and I go back, it still feels that way to me when we go back. Like it feels like it has all the charm and the small town feel and just what I remember
as a kid growing up there. It was just a wonderful place. I think when I was a kid, it was maybe 20,000, a little over 20,000 people. It's grown, it's probably over 30 by now. I could be way off, but we got a Target when I was in, I don't know, 8th or ninth grade, and that was like the biggest thing, and so it always had that small town feel. And man, the arts community there, music, arts, all those things it was just such a vibrant place, like unexpectedly vibrant for such a small population. The university was a big part of that, but it was just a great place to grow up. There was always art events, music events happening everywhere, and I grew up in a musical family, so that helped. But everything we did was somehow revolving around music or going out to see a play or a movie it's just a wonderful place to grow up.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have an older sister, a couple years older than me, and I have a younger brother who's 10 years younger than me.
So if everybody in the family was musical, did you ever do family stuff?
Yeah, it was tricky for me growing up because my sister was a couple years older than me, and she was already taking piano lessons, and my parents are both fantastic keyboard players, and owned a piano store. So I grew up with it, and the natural thing for me to do was to take piano lessons because I had to. Like good parents, they made me take piano lessons, and I hated it because I was the worst of
the family,
the four of us at the time. And I just didn't do well with that. So I pushed against it. And when I got to be in 6th grade and they put a trumpet in my hands, I was like, this is something that I can be better at than my mom and my dad and my sister, because they literally can't play it.
You wanted to stand out.
So I wanted to just do something. I mean, my sister did all the piano competitions, and she had, the living room was like just like a trophy case, basically, of plaques and things of competitions that she had won. And so I was not doing good at piano lessons, but I would sit at home and listen to Beatles records and play along with them. I loved doing that. I didn't like the piano lessons. And then, like I said, they put me in band, and I realized that was something that I could do that would be still musical and fit in with my family, but different enough that I could feel like an individual. And
so you went to trumpet, and did you start to excel right away? You thought,
it was natural. Yeah, there was something natural about it, and I still play a little bit, and I wish I could play more. I wish there was more time in the day, in the week, in a year, but I gravitated towards it, and did real good in school, band and everything, and was going to actually got a scholarship to go to college to be a trumpet performance major. And it just, again, like I found something that I was good at. I didn't know necessarily that I was going to do it for my whole life or what I was going to do. I mean, what do you do as a trumpet player? When you're in a town of 20,000 people, How do you make a living? But I knew I was good at it, and I loved it.
Did you think at all of like, because you're listening to music, were you thinking, hey, I could be in a popular band one day, and or were you thinking you could teach, or was that even?
I remember having those thoughts. Yeah, I remember. I would play around with writing my own music and writing. I remember showing some very early lyrics to my 7th grade English teacher, and thinking that this would be cool if this were on the radio. And it was, just thankfully that's lost, and we can't actually see how terrible it was, because I'm sure it was pretty terrible. But I do remember thinking like, I also had friends that we had started a little rock band in high school that I started playing trumpet because they wanted to play the Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles, and they needed a trumpet player, and they wanted to do Penny Lane and things like that. I could play trumpet. And then I was like, oh, by the way, I sort of also play keyboards. Not really, but I know you don't need trumpet on every song. So, and then I sort of realized I could sing too. And then I was in a band, and we were doing battle of bands at high school, in the cafeteria and stuff. And so I had thought about it, but I also grew up. My mom's a wonderful classical player, piano player, and my dad is a wonderful classical player too, but also played like rock, Hammond organ, all like toured when I was a kid. And so I kind of grew up seeing that happen and seeing him grow out of it and into a phase where he had kids, young kids, and was gone every weekend and was around a bunch of people who were drinking and smoking and ended up, he walked away from it for the sake of their career and the family unit. And so I always had a bit of reluctance toward that lifestyle, or a little bit of fear about that lifestyle, just because I saw how I kind of saw the end of my father's career doing that before I even had any sort of inkling toward my own.
Interesting. Wow. So, but you ended up going to college on trumpet scholarship.
I did.
Play trumpet.
Yeah.
And so you have one of the great stories of all time of taking a lemon and turning it to lemonade. So you're this is in college when you're playing trumpet, and you have a bit of a accident that really changed the course of, I would say, your career.
My whole life, really. I mean, I was a freshman, and I was practicing in a dorm room. I was practicing trumpet, and it was a nice day, and the guy I was rooming with, who was a trombone player, he was yelling out the window, talking to some girls on the street, like he was being an actual college kid. I was practicing my trumpet in my dorm room. I was definitely the odd man out. But he was frustrated with me for practicing and making noise while he was trying to apparently talk to girls on the street through our dorm room window, and got frustrated with me because I wouldn't stop, and elbowed, like basically just threw his elbow back, and it hit the bell of my trumpet while I was playing and pushed the trumpet into my mouth in such a way that, like, I mean, you can imagine what, they're like metal lips, teeth. I mean, it was not a pretty thing. And I don't think I was able to play trumpet for a long time.
The injury? Were you cut?
Oh yeah. It was bad. And yeah, so I didn't play. I went the next day to school, and I was like, I can't play. Like,
so that was your Scott, but you were there for that, so you were in trouble.
So they basically said, granted, I was at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, so I was in my hometown, and I had grown up around, because my parents were in the music community, I knew all the professors. It wasn't like I was just some new kid on the block, and I was able to talk to them and be like, look, this is what happened. I don't know what to do. They basically said, well, obviously we don't want you to leave, but to keep music scholarship money, you have to be in the music department. And so I was like, well, I can sort of play piano, because that was the honest truth at the time. Yeah. I could sort of play piano. I could read the top line of a piano score because I could read treble clef from being a trumpet player. Couldn't read the bottom line. So here I was all of a sudden, they're like, well, okay, you're gonna take piano lessons with the piano professor, and you'll have to join the choir, because part of it was you had to take private lessons on your instrument, and then you had to be in one of the larger ensembles. And so for me, that was trumpet lessons and the wind ensemble or the jazz band or whatever. And so they're like, okay, piano lessons and choir, and that's what that'll get us through this year, and then we'll see what happens.
Were you mad? Were you worried? Were you?
Yeah, I was furious. I mean, I was furious because I thought that I had I mean, to go back just a little further, like the summer before I even went to college, I almost didn't go into music at all. I was thinking of going into, I had some people chirping in my ear that, music wasn't a smart profession and I should do something where I could make a living. And so I had also enrolled in a couple other schools to be an engineer. I really was interested in that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So, and at the last minute, I was like, I can't give up on music. I need to, and that's how I got into Stevens Point, because I was from there. So I was already kind of like, I took a big risk to do this, and now what I thought I thought I had made the right choice, and now I don't even have that for me anymore. And of course, when you're 18 or 19, like everything feels like the end of the world. Right. And it wasn't. If I had just walked away from it for a couple of years, it also would have been fine. Right. I don't think any of it was as big of a deal as it felt like at the time, but I was pretty frustrated and pretty worried because I didn't see a future in what they were teaching me at school at that point.
But as you started being in choir and playing piano, did you start to feel something that, like, there's something here that I haven't been tapping into that now I am?
Well, yeah, I mean, sitting at a piano, like getting a little more actual knowledge on the piano was really liberating for me, because I could actually then, I think I was gifted with a really good ear. And then once I started actually learning the mechanics of the piano the right way, I was able to do more with what my ear was able to do. Yeah. I was able to take what was in my head and figure out how to make it come out of the piano. Yeah. And then also just the logistics of, like, trumpet it's a solo monophonic instrument that you typically play in an ensemble, and piano was something that I could do on my own, be self-sustained. I could sit there and play and sing. I didn't need an ensemble. I didn't need anybody else to be with me. I could play whatever type of music I wanted. So I quickly realized that, like, hey, this will allow me to, maybe go back to those younger urges in me that were like, hey, you should write songs, you should sing. And I was very nervous about it. I didn't think it would ever turn into anything. I just knew that I had a little bit of a better vehicle for it at the time.
Yeah. When did it become, you know what? I'm going to dig into being Danny Mitchell, singer-songwriter, and do that.
It took a long time. I mean, I was almost through college, and none of my peers or teachers or anybody knew that I sang and played my own music. I kind of just went by the book and did what they asked me to do in school. But dear friend of mine, my mentor, and just another one of those pivotal people in my life, the band director at the university there at the time, Scott Teeple, he was one of the newest professors, and his office was in the way back of the music building, and I would always go to the way back of all the block of practice rooms to be as far away from everybody as I could. Yeah. And I would go sit in that practice room and play and sing songs just for fun, and that was right across from his office, and he kind of perked up his ears to it and signed me up they had this thing called the collage concert, where it was the one time of the year where music students could come and bring whatever they wanted. It wasn't like a formal recital. Yeah. So, like, if you were a cello performance major, you could go to the collage concert and play a song on guitar if you wanted to. It was just kind of like a get all your other things out. Get it out of your system, and then fall back in line. Yeah. And he signed me up for it without telling me that he signed me up for it, because he knew that I would never willingly sign myself up for it. And so there my name is on a program that I'm going to play and sing a song of my own. And I did it. I was mad. I was mad, but I did it. And he twisted my arm, and I got over my fear of people finding out that I did that, and played it, and I got, some good responses, and that was what really like lit the pilot light, I think.
Yeah.
And then from there it was like, oh, people want to hear this. And also I was, like I said, I was by far the worst piano player in my class because I was so far behind. So it was something that allowed me to stand out in a way that I had never stood out before. And so I remember something my dad told me when he was coming up. He was like, I was a great piano player in college, but the world was full of brilliant piano players that could run circles around me, and I didn't want to run that race my whole life. But he was like, I realized that I could tune pianos and fix and restore pianos in a way that nobody else could, and that's what made me special. And he said that's when I decided that we were going to start a business. And I always had that in the back of my head, like, he didn't give up on anything. He just found his niche. Yeah. And that, when I played that first concert where I played in front of people and I sang one of my own songs, I was like, oh, maybe this is that for me. Maybe I don't need to try to keep up with the jazzers and the classical people that are my friends in school that are all they were all going on to grad school at that time. Like, everybody was applying for the next thing. And I did the same. Like, I kind of went through those motions, but I finished school, and also kind of fortuitously, a guy who became a really good lifelong friend, Mark Little, he was playing, he had a little acoustic band that played at the bars in the area, and he asked me if I wanted to come play with them one time, and I did, and it kind of like allowed me to be the rebel, like, get out of the academic music thing. And again, it was going out and seeing people like light up over music, which, you play classical recitals, they're wonderful, and but it's a very formal thing, and people politely clap, but there isn't a lot. Like, I needed to see it in somebody's eyes that what I just did made them feel something, and so those couple experiences kind of steered me in that direction. And then I've spent the next couple years traveling around Wisconsin with Mark, playing in his band and playing every horrible bar gig we could get our hands on, and we didn't make any money, but we had a really good time. And I started doing solo. That was another thing. I could do piano bar gigs. I played at this martini bar near my hometown every Friday night for a couple years. I started doing it and realizing, like, hey, this is really fun, and I don't have to pay for grad school, and I can. And there I was, like, all of a sudden on a different path, and absolutely not what I expected, but there I was.
You've been able to, your music to me taps into emotion really in an acute way, melodically and lyrically, and that's very, very powerful. And on today's episode, I wanted to focus in on one of your songs, a relatively new song as far as being completed, but one that's been around. I want you to tell the story of that, but called Summer Lucky. And I've seen you play it in sound check. I've seen you play it in concerts, and it always emotes something in me that's a bit melancholy, but very truthful and powerful. And so, tell us the story. You wrote "Summer Lucky" with Kim Ritchie and Nelson Hubbard. Is that right? How did that song come about?
We were touring. Me and Nelson were Kim's touring band for a few years, around, I don't know, starting in 2010 through maybe 2012 or 2013. And, the three of us were all individual songwriters, but we had never written together, the three of us. And I think I suggested it. I was like, I would really like to write with you guys, because they were both writers that I really looked up to, and I wanted a crack at, I just wanted one song with them. Yeah. And so we sat down one time when we were off, and we started writing, and it was, I don't think anybody was having a really good day. And so we got through maybe a verse and a chorus of this song, and just, it was one of those where it's like, let's just go to lunch. And we went to lunch and never came back to it, which was okay. You know, that's kind of, sometimes it just goes that way. And I kind of just chalked it up to, that's how that went. I always remembered that I liked what we did. I wouldn't have been able, if you had asked me a year ago or whenever, before I rediscovered the song, if you'd asked me, what's the song called, how does it go, I would have no idea. Like completely forgot it. Just kind of had a soft, fuzzy memory of the feeling I got when we were all in a room together. Anyway, I think it was sometime during 2020 when I had some extra time on my hands at home. I was cleaning hard drives and, you know, looking through old files and looking through old voice memos for ideas to write. And I stumbled upon the little iPhone memo that we made that day of the verse and chorus that we finished. And I was like, man, that's better than I remembered it. And it also really just, the lyric again made me feel something.
Yeah.
And of course, hearing Kim sing anything is wonderful. And so it was nostalgic for me. But then my wife came in the room, and she hears me do music all day, every day. So she doesn't often come in the room and ask me about anything. But she popped her head in and she was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's just the voice memo was dated, 2011 or whatever, and here we are almost 10 years later from it." And I was like, I don't think we finished it. It's a half a song. And she's like, "Well, I think you should finish it." And at that time, Kim and Nielsen and I had all gone in our separate directions. Kim was off on tour somewhere in Europe, and Nielsen's running a really successful video production. I mean, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. So I was like, I'm not going to bother them with this. I'm going to just write a middle verse and tighten up the chorus, and then I'm going to demo it and send it to them. And if they like it, great. If not, fine.
Yeah.
No big deal. So I did that, and it was one of those things that I knew somehow exactly how to finish it instantly without even really thinking about it. I just sat down at the piano, and there it was. And again, played it for my wife, and she was just like, "Okay,
Yeah.
this is good. I like this." And Nielsen and Kim loved it, and they had both completely forgotten about it as
Wow.
well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's like, you go to put in a pool in your backyard and you dig up something that you buried when you were a kid,
Yeah.
it was.
I look at songs, as maybe you do too, as these living things.
Yeah.
And you breathe sort of life into this thing. It's been there. It just took someone to come back and sort of nurture it.
Yeah. And it needed, I also think it needed time.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them do. And that's one thing that I really struggle with in the Nashville culture is the 3-hour writing window. And we got to get it done.
And you need a time, listen to that song, to live life, because that song is a mature look back. And
I think that's part of why it hit me so hard at that point in my life. I don't know if my wife and I were married at the time, but we were close to being married, if not married right then. And the previous decade had been a roller coaster of different things, literally ups and downs in every facet of my life. And going from however old I was, 20 something, and when we started writing it with Kim and Nielsen, to mid to late 30s, it's just a different. I'm sure if I had found it 10 years from now, it would be a completely different thing.
Yeah.
It's just I needed to go through some things, and it just made me nostalgic in the best way. And I think one of the things that I like about it the most is that it's specific enough like some of the greatest songs, they're specific enough, but they're not too specific that everybody can't get something from it.
Yeah.
And it's just ambiguous enough to make you think, and also to make you it allows you to apply it to your life in however. My wife was telling me, she's like, it's amazing because it can be our story of what we went through to find each other. It could be about somebody who lost a parent. It could be about any number of things. It could be about young love, that, and I think that's what something that I strive for in songs nowadays, is to make something universal enough, but also with some really specific details. The chorus is, I took a picture of a moment to prove that it felt like flying.
Yeah.
And the whole song kind of revolves around like finding an old photograph.
Yeah.
And so there's a number of other songs that kind of use that as a platform that are wonderful, like that. You should have seen it in color. That's but this idea of seeing an old photograph of something that maybe didn't work out, or maybe it's somebody that you lost, but being able to look at it and smile and remember how even whatever happened post taking the photograph, like whether it all went to crap the next day, and it's like it doesn't matter. Like, you can look back on that moment and say that felt like flying. To me, that's what I love about it so much, is like, we all have those things in our life, those bittersweet things, and whether it's a career or a person, loved one, friend, family member, like, no matter how much it hurt, no matter how much it didn't work out, like, you can look back on that and remember the good.
Yeah. That exact second, and maybe that's part of the value of the song too, of peeling another layer off it, is getting to a point in life where you start to recognize when you're in those moments, when you're in that snapshot, and just quit looking backwards and quit looking forward, and just this moment is powerful.
This snapshot is a really good word. There's one of my favorite episodes of The Office where Jim and Pam are having their relationship, and they are trying to remember, and they don't have a camera, but when something special happens, they look at each other and they go, And I think of that a lot, and I think that's kind of what this song is like just stopping and taking a second to just make a little print, even though you're not making a print, or even taking a picture of it. It's just something to remember. And like you said, being able to be present enough to notice when those moments are happening, instead of having to wait 10 years and then go, oh, those were good times. I wish I would have realized it. That's been, that's something that I think we all will spend our whole lives trying to get better at. Yeah.
Well, I agree, and you played with our shows, our Home by Dark shows, and it took me, how many years are we doing this now? But it took me a while. But when you play with us, God's honest truth, I do. 'Cause I'm very active in the shows, playing drums and doing stuff, and sometimes my head used to be so distracted that I don't even remember used to never remember the shows. But now, in part because later in life, you go, I'm enjoying this moment of playing songs with you. And even last night when you played the song on our show, there's no drums on it, but I got to sit there and I was thinking to myself, listening to those lyrics, going, this is a snapshot that I just want to keep.
Yeah.
It's powerful. That's what songwriters do. That's what when we say a song can change your life, is being able to dig into and understand, appreciate what you're telling us in a song like this, and it has value beyond the tangibles of a song. We can take it away with us and make our lives better, become better people, and that's so cool, man. So thank you for writing it. Thank you for being a guest on the show today, Danny.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure.
And maybe people see you out there on the road with Miranda, but as well, playing with her. But in the meantime, they can check out your music everywhere, and hopefully, is this song going to get released, or?
I need to make a proper recording of it. Yeah.
You going to do a new record?
Yeah.
All right.
It's on tape. I'm gonna do a new record.
All right, Danny Mitchell.
Hold
Thank
me
you.
to it. Thanks, Jimmy.
In a frame upon a shelf, back when I was someone else, before we learned to tell a lie, and long before we said goodbye. Took a picture of a moment to prove it felt like flying. Camera caught the angle of you. It's all about the timing. Some are lucky, some not so, depending on whichever way the wind blows. Tell me something I don't know. Some are lucky, some are not so. Grab the corner, shake the dust. The only thing that's left of us, captured in a timeless spell, far away somewhere else. I took a picture of a moment to prove it felt like flying. The camera caught the angle of you. It's all about the timing. Some are lucky, some not so, depending on whichever way the wind blows. Tell me where the years go. Some are lucky, some are not so. Some are lucky, some are not so. Took a picture of a moment to prove it felt like flying. The camera caught the angle of you. It's all about the timing. And some are lucky, some not so, depending on whichever way the wind blows. Tell me something I don't know. Some are lucky, some are not so. Some are lucky, some are